Attraction rarely feels like a choice. You don't sit down and decide who you're drawn to. It feels instinctive, immediate, almost familiar. And for many people, the real confusion isn't who they're attracted to, it's why the pattern keeps repeating, even when the outcome never really changes. Hello, and welcome to The Love Edit, a space where we explore the psychology behind attraction, connection, and attachment, and make sense of the patterns that shape how we love. In this video, we're looking at why you may feel drawn to certain people again and again, even when those connections don't end well, and what's actually driving that pull beneath the surface. One of the most unsettling things about attraction is how little it feels like a decision. You meet someone and something clicks. A pull, a spark, a sense of energy or emotional charge. And often, you can't explain why. This is why advice like just choose better rarely helps. Attraction doesn't operate like a rational decision-making process. It isn't driven by logic, it's driven by the nervous system. Before your conscious mind has time to assess compatibility, values, or long-term potential, your body has already responded. That response isn't random, it's learned. Your nervous system is drawing on past experiences of closeness and connection, making rapid associations about what feels familiar, stimulating, or emotionally significant. Understanding this matters because it removes blame. If attraction feels automatic, that's because it largely is. People often describe attraction as chemistry, but psychologically, what we experience as chemistry is very often familiarity. Familiar emotional patterns tend to feel compelling because your nervous system already knows how to respond to them. That doesn't mean they're healthy, it means they're recognizable. Familiarity can show up as emotional intensity, a sense of urgency, heightened focus on the other person, a feeling of wanting to be chosen. These sensations can feel meaningful, even profound, but they're not always signals of compatibility. They're often signals of recognition. Your nervous system is essentially saying, I know this rhythm. And that rhythm may come from early experiences of closeness, inconsistency, emotional unpredictability, or conditional connection. This is one reason why emotionally calm, consistent people can feel unexciting, while emotionally inconsistent people can feel magnetic. Not because one is better, but because one feels familiar. As you're listening to this, you might notice a particular type coming to mind. Someone who felt intense, familiar, or hard to let go of, even if it didn't feel good in the end. To understand why familiarity can feel so powerful, we need to introduce attachment. Attachment theory looks at how we learn to relate to closeness, safety, and emotional connection, often long before we have conscious awareness of it. It suggests that our early experiences of connection shape how our nervous system responds to intimacy later in life. This doesn't mean the past controls everything, but it does mean attraction often follows learned emotional patterns. Psychology typically describes 4 attachment styles. The first is secure attachment, comfort with both closeness and independence. connection feels steady rather than urgent. Secondly, there's anxious attachment. Closeness feels precious and easily lost. Distance tends to activate worry or longing. Dismissive avoidant attachment. Independence and self-sufficiency are prioritized. Closeness can feel intrusive or overwhelming. And fearful avoidant attachment. A push-pull pattern, wanting intimacy deeply, but feeling unsafe once it arrives. Most people don't fit neatly into one category, and these patterns can shift over time. But attachment gives us a powerful lens, not just for how we behave in relationships, but for who we're drawn to in the first place. With that framework in mind, we can look more closely at how attraction feels within different attachment styles. For people with anxious attachment tendencies, attraction often feels intense and emotionally charged. There's frequently a strong pull towards people who feel slightly unavailable, emotionally inconsistent, difficult to read, or just out of reach. Attraction here is closely tied to longing. Moments of closeness feel deeply relieving, whereas moments of distance feel unsettling or alarming. This can lead to heightened focus on the other person, sensitivity to changes in tone or communication, a strong desire for reassurance, difficulty letting go even when the relationship feels painful. From the inside, this doesn't feel like insecurity. It feels like caring deeply. But what's often happening is nervous system activation. Uncertainty keeps the system on high alert. Intermittent closeness feels rewarding because it temporarily soothes that activation. Over time, attraction becomes linked to emotional highs and lows rather than steadiness. Avoidant attachment experiences attraction very differently. Here, attraction is often drawn to independence, emotional restraint, or low emotional demand. The early stages of connection can feel exciting. There's space, autonomy, and a sense of control. But as intimacy increases, discomfort may appear. Not because the other person is wrong, but because closeness activates vulnerability. Dismissive avoidant attraction may involve enjoying pursuit, but withdrawing once closeness forms, valuing independence highly, feeling overwhelmed by emotional needs, even reasonable ones, a noticeable fading of desire as intimacy grows. This isn't about a lack of feeling, it's about protection. Distance regulates the nervous system. Closeness can feel destabilizing. One of the most common and painful dynamics in relationships is the anxious and avoidant pairing. This isn't coincidence. Anxious attachment may feel drawn to avoidant attachment because unpredictability feels familiar. Distance intensifies longing. The pursuit itself feels meaningful. Avoidant attachment may feel drawn to anxious attachment because attention feels affirming. Emotional intensity feels flattering. Closeness arrives without having to initiate it. At first, this can feel like chemistry. But over time, the same dynamic creates strain. The more one person seeks closeness, the more the other pulls away. The more one pulls away, the more the other escalates. Each nervous system reinforces the other. This isn't about incompatibility as people, it's about incompatible regulation strategies. Have you ever found yourself repeatedly in one side of this dynamic? seeking closeness, or needing distance? Let us know in the comments. One of the hardest distinctions to make in relationships is the difference between intensity and alignment. Intensity can feel like depth, but it's often fueled by emotional uncertainty. In high-intensity relationships, there may be emotional highs, dramatic closeness, painful distance, repeated cycles of rupture and repair. These cycles can feel bonding, but they often distract from deeper incompatibilities, differences in emotional needs, communication styles, or expectations of closeness. When relationships like this end, the loss can feel especially disorienting, not because they were right, but because the intensity made them feel significant. Even with insight, attraction doesn't instantly change. That's because these responses are stored at a nervous system level. Understanding helps, but it doesn't immediately rewire what feels familiar. Neural pathways strengthen through repetition. The more often a certain emotional pattern is experienced, the more easily the system returns to it. This is why people can say, "I know this isn't good for me," and still feel drawn. Awareness doesn't eliminate attraction overnight, but it creates something powerful, a pause. You may start to notice when attraction feels urgent rather than calm, when longing is driven by distance, when familiarity is mistaken for compatibility. That pause creates choice, not about who you're drawn to, but about how you respond to that attraction over time. This is where patterns begin to loosen, and this is where change starts. In the videos ahead, we'll go deeper into each attachment style, how these patterns form, and how people gradually move towards connections that feel more secure. If this resonates, we'd love you to subscribe. This channel exists so that when it comes to love and relationships, you can stop guessing and start knowing.